All discussions and interactions are meant for educational and entertainment purposes only. They're not intended to breach the ATA Code of Conduct, single out any student or educator, or diminish professional integrity in any way. I'm Conrad Drover. Join me as I sit down with inspiring professionals from diverse fields to gain valuable insight from their experiences and knowledge to help me grow as both an educator in the classroom and as a person in all areas of my life. This is Professional Development. Hi guys. Today I'm joined by Quinn Lyness, founder of the Canadian Track and Field League, or CTFL. It's a team-based league inspired by Formula One. Today, Quinn shares how CTFL is transforming track and field in Canada. It's engaging fans and creating new opportunities for Canadian athletes. We dive deep into the league's relationship with Athletics Canada, the governing body of track and field, the power of storytelling in sports, and Quinn's journey through education, athletics, and entrepreneurship. He reflects on his lessons he's learned, balancing business and athletics, staying focused on core values, and overcoming adversity to build something meaningful. Let's dive in. All right, Quinn Lyness, how's it going?
Good. Nice to meet you, Dick Conrad.
Yeah, we're gonna pretend like this is not the second time we're doing this. Technical difficulties.
We will definitely pretend that.
All right. Oh man, like thanks for coming on the show. I've had teachers now. I've had Olympian and a couple other just amazing folk, but I've never had what I would consider like an entrepreneur such as yourself. Would you consider yourself an entrepreneur?
At this point, I would definitely consider myself as an
All
entrepreneur.
right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So just for everyone, maybe just like introduce yourself, introduce what the CTFL is, and I guess maybe give us a reason why it's in existence. Like what sort of gap is this filling, so to
Yeah.
speak?
Yeah. So my name's Quinn Lyness and stuff. So I'm the founder of the Canadian Track and Field League. I created it about just over 3 years ago from now. So we're in March now. So I created it in January 2022, and it's been a kind of like a passion project, I guess, of mine for years, just like internally. Never written anything down, even before creating it and stuff. The reason why I felt like it was necessarily to be created was to bridge the gap between track and field, which is a super popular sport when it comes to the Olympics, and then the I guess everyday fan that kind of wants to see that content potentially produced, not just during the Olympics. And like the reason why like I was thinking about creating a league was it's like, hey, like if track and field is really it is the most popular sport when the Olympics are putting on like that those like 7 or 8 days, those are generally like the most viewed and it's the most viewed program, and then it just dies afterwards. So it's like, okay, like something is clearly wrong here. Like if there's something that one of the biggest events in the world beside maybe the FIFA World Cup and stuff, like the second most viewed sporting event, and then it just kind of dies off. Like why is that? Especially in North America. So I've been thinking for years on how to kind of like develop a system that would enable more fans to be engaged with track and field throughout the year, not just during an Olympic year, but during kind of like an off year, so to speak. And I came up with, especially in North America, we're very team focused, creating a team based league, kind of off of Formula One. So bringing that individual kind of athletic side to a team event to hopefully kind of cater more towards the North American fan or style of viewing, which is like, I'm a Montreal Canadian fan, so I'm gonna like definitely be a diehard like Habs fan for the rest of my life. And yeah, so that's kind of how it came to be, like the idea, and then I launched it, and it became fairly successful, and we're just kind of continuing to grow it at this point.
Cool. Yeah, no, that sounds awesome, and I get your point where it's like not even like all of track and field. Like it's like the 100 meter is like the most like crazy event for a week, and then it sort of like pitters off. Um, but from my experience with like track and field in Canada, just being an athlete myself, um, the system that we have right now is like typical like clubs. So it's club level, whether you're like high school or post collegiate or collegiate in the summertime. You sort of have a club system where clubs are their teams and they go compete throughout Canada and sort of build up to like the national championship or the Olympic or world championship trials. I'm just wondering, from a guy outside looking in, what is different about the CTFL and what makes that, I guess, unique in terms of its ability to do things compared to the club system that we already have?
Yeah, so I think what's unique about the CTFL is that we are, well, first of all, created by an athlete. So I am still like the competing athlete, not
Nice.
to the same degree as most of the
Yeah.
CTFL athletes. But it was also created like with a very like fan focused kind of view. So like I think in order for our athletes to be successful, like one of the biggest issues in their sport is just like athletes are not paid enough. And no matter how fast we run or how far we jump or how far we throw, or how high, but like no matter how like astronomically impressive some of these feats are, especially within Canada and stuff, like athletes are not going to be able to generate that like income that they need to unless we have the fans that are kind of backing them, right? Like, just like that's why like NBA players getting paid like $50 million contracts compared to
Yeah.
like even like NHL players, which is like a sport that hasn't grown that much compared to the other big four leagues. They're getting paid like 11 million, and it's just because like how much the sport has grown with the fans. So like yeah, LeBron's like older and like there's some very impressive players, but like you kind of need that base to then generate income to then pay for. Like it's entertainment, and that's what maybe we're missing as a sport, and what the clubs and like say like Athletics Canada and stuff is missing. Like their focus is to help develop athletes to perform better. Our objective is to assist athletes by building a platform that they can then utilize um, to make income and then hopefully then get better, right? Like if we're growing the sport, if we're able to invest more into the athletes, better equipment, better facilities. I say that with my facility in Ottawa being like torn, like in shambles right now. Like we had a dome and it's gone.
Don't you
So
guys
like
have like a 400-meter track?
yeah, we have
No.
400 track and it's like it fell apart
Oh.
about 2.5 weeks ago. So
Oh
like
no.
we're without a dome. So it's like, and this is the only place in a city of like over 1 million people that you could go really train at effectively. So now we're in like a concrete like slab basically of a barn. Like we're in a barn with a concrete slab, and that's where we're
Oh
training
no,
at.
like the grotto. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the situation, and so that's kind of what we do a little differently. It's like we put the fan first, but in reality, that is putting the athlete above all else because like you need that underlying support to help the sport grow.
Yeah. So I'm getting a sense like it's more about it, like marketing, right? Like you really want to be able to like the market the athletes. And from my understanding, there's like different teams that you've set up.
Hmm.
And I guess can you go through like how someone becomes a member of the CTFL and I guess what the CTFL is, like as you alluded to it, what is it doing to like market the athletes? Like how do you get someone in to track and field uh, differently than how the governing bodies like Athletics Canada are doing?
Yeah, so I think I'll start off with like just like maybe I should have done a better job at the start, but like what is
No
the
worries.
CTFL? And the CTFL is a team-based league with individuals competing for four different teams. We have the Arctics, Bears, Huskies, and Spitfires. Um, they are drafted into, so they register. There's a standard that we have in place. If you hit the standard, you are then like eligible to register for the draft. You then hopefully get drafted. So this there's about 67 athletes per team. So a very large, like that's about what two or yeah 200 and like 70, was that 73 or 69 or something? I don't know. But a lot. I haven't
Whatever.
done it. but
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, it shows my math skills. But and then the athletes compete at 5 prelim meets throughout the season, and the finals, which is held in Ottawa. So this year's July 11th. Um, and so that's kind of like the process of becoming a CTFL athlete. So like first you have to set the standard, like they meet that, they then get drafted hopefully, and then they compete for their team. They accumulate points throughout the season. So you'll have like a free mark, which is like you can run that anywhere in the world and we'll track it for you. Prelim mark, so you have to go to one of the prelims that are spread across the country. We have one in BC, one in Quebec, and three in Ontario. And then you come to the finals for your final mark, which is out of like the three. You accumulate points throughout the year, and then whoever has the most points at the end of the season wins the gold medal, and then silver, bronze, that kind of stuff, and the prize money associated with it. So this year we have about $45,000 on the line.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and that money's game changing for a lot of these athletes. Because I do know a, a couple of like CTFL athletes that I trained with for years. Simone Berube is the one that comes to mind. He's my buddy, and he's absolutely blown up in the last couple of years with like his like 342 and a couple things like that. And that was the thing that really hooked me in CTFL. And like I know him, right? But I also like the event that he runs. I also like the 1500 because it's the event that I ran, and now like I'm rooting for him. And I think was it this summer or last summer when they had a very close race in Guelph, and it was the CTFL's marketing, like their Instagram posts and stuff like that. I was invested. Like it was a rivalry. It was really cool to like follow the season with the athlete specific, and that's something I haven't necessarily, I guess,
Scene.
got into like before the CTFL. Like I was rooting for like these particular athletes and this and eventually like the particular teams. Like I was like really into it. Was that sort of your goal, like to try to get people like hooked
Yeah.
onto like the drama of it all?
Yeah, like I think we haven't done like an excellent job with creating that like drama. I think we're doing a better job like towards the tail end of this year. Like we tried to do it with the men's 200 this year, and it was pretty successful. Unfortunately, like a couple of guys got injured late in the season, so it kind of ruined the storylines. But
Storylines.
everyone like it's inevitable. Like it just
Yeah.
happens with the sport. As with more resources, we can cover more stories, and that means that like we're just taking less big swings, if that makes sense. Like we just get more attempts. Um, but yeah, I think like the objective is for us to hopefully hook you on with a certain athlete, and then you'll start following that team. Like as we were talking about before, kind of thing. We hopped on the call. Um, I was in Toronto this week for a New Balance event, and I was asking the kids like, "Do you know about CTFL?" And like, I'd say about 75% of them knew what it was, and about 33% of that like 100 was they were like avid fans of CTFL. Like they were like, "Yeah, we watch like all the videos, like we're super into it." And I'm like, "You guys like have a favorite athlete?" And they're like, "Quinn Coughlin." And then like they'll do like they do like the milk up roll bears, which is what he does. And now like a lot of the Bears athletes do it when they're on camera. So we've caught like so many of the athletes doing it now, but she's the one that kind of like came up with that little like thing, and then now like kids, not only is it great for Milk Up Ontario, so good for them, but
Yeah.
like like the kids. One of them I asked like, "Who's your favorite team?" And they did the Milk Up Roll Bears without even like saying Bears. And I'm just like, "Cool, like, you're a Bears fan. That's pretty sweet." So that's what you're getting into now. Like you're gonna start getting like the fans engaging with the teams and learning about different athletes, right? Like they follow the team now. Like they're a Quinn Coughlin fan, they're Bears fan. That means that they're gonna be like who's on the Bears or something like that, like Rocksroy Cato. Like you're gonna go and start following Rocksroy, like two-time Olympic champion, and he's blown up. Like since we started helping him out, um, generating content and stuff like that. And then he's gone once above us, and he's just been killing it. He has like 300,000 followers, and he started with CTFL. It was maybe like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000
Oh, there you
followers,
go.
and so like he started to build his platform, and like I think we have a little bit to do with that, and like we're seeing that with like Quinn, like she's doubled her following. So like that'll in turn hopefully help them build their platform and get sponsors, and the whole team format really works.
So yeah, like you're already seeing the fruit of your labors. Like these athletes are getting noticed where they could run the same times that they're doing right now, but like not have that follow base and like maybe not be as lucrative in terms of like financial support. So like I think you're hitting your goal there, which is awesome. Oh man, like it's cool that you've gotten like this far. And like for someone who's like I'm myself, I've been in the public sector my entire professional career. So I do not know the grind of like business at all. Um, how did you get to this point? Is what I'm trying to think. So like now you have like you mentioned New Balance as like a sponsor,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're sort of with New Balance, but you're also gaining like almost like a prosumer um, growth right now. It's like the consumers of CTFL are now sort of making stuff for CTFL. Like the the culture is building like the
Yeah.
social media presence, which is awesome. But think like day one, you said you had it in your head for years and you just never did anything with it, and you've thought about it. And I again, you're young, right? You're 20,
24.
24. Okay. So when you started it, you were 21,
Yeah.
you said? Okay. So, and then I laugh because I really wanted this like when you were probably 17 and I was competing because I would have been sick. But take me back to like day one, like you actually starting this for real. Because what is the timeline? Like, okay, who do I talk to? Like, I need to call New Balance or I need to get a sponsor. How did that all start?
No, so I was doing my master's degree. And then when I get like really busy, I like to stay really busy. And when I get lazy, I'll stay lazy until there's like a moving force that will cause me like this month, like normally I haven't been this busy, but in February I was like gong show crazy, like working like usually like 14-hour days, like almost every single day. And I'm completely fine with that level of like work. It's just like getting me to that point. So as I was coming home from my master's degree for Christmas break, it lasted about 3 days, and then I was like biting at the bit. I was like, I need to do something productive,
Yeah, I get
and
it.
then I just started writing this business plan, and then I wrote it all out. A couple days later, Aaron Brown, so like now Olympic gold medalist, I mean he's 3 medals from the Olympics. He had like a little like thing on his Instagram, like asked me a question, and I was like, I have this really cool idea for a track and field league, like would you be interested in helping me out? And I texted him a little bit before that, like just as like a
Mhm.
like I kind of knew him, like I've met him before,
Yeah.
but he was like, hey, like send it over to me, like I'll take a look. He got back to me, he's like, this is a really cool idea, like if you want any like help with this, like I will for sure help you out. And after that I was like, okay, like I have like one of the fastest guys in the world, to ever exist,
That's
like
good.
really. And I was like, this would be sick to maybe make this a thing. So I posted on social media, just a crappy little pixelated CTFL logo. So like the one that like I'm wearing right now. And it caught like 1,000 followers in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And yeah, that was nuts. And I was like, there's more followers than I had personally at that point. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, this is awesome. Like, people are wanting to do this. And then I got like a call from like Athletics Canada and Athletics Ontario, and there were emails. And first of all, no one knew who created CTFL. Like for the first 3 months, I didn't put my name out there. I told my friends about it, and maybe that's how it kind of got spread. But like internally, I only told maybe like 20 people that it was me. So then somehow Athletics Canada and Athletics Ontario knew it was me, and then they emailed me, and I was like, "Oh crap!" Like on my
Oh
personal
no.
email, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh no!" Like it's being called into the principal's office,
Yeah.
and then I was like, "Crap!" So I didn't go by like I feel like if I had gone through the general stream, somebody would have tried to shut it down, like
Right.
whether it was like
So
AC
like
or company or
you're
whatever.
you're you're saying that like you almost got scared when like Athletics Canada is the governing body of track and field, and they
Yeah.
sort of like set people up for Olympics, World Championships, and they're sort of like responsible for the world stage, like what Canada does on the world stage. Um, why were you scared that Athletics Canada was like emailing you? Like, were they opposition or were they familiar? Or, like, were they? What
They
was their take on this?
I think everyone was just wondering what was going on. Like they were saying that a lot of coaches were emailing them saying like, "What's this?" Like we're very interested to see what it, what it was, and like and they didn't know because I didn't release, like I literally just posted something on Instagram, like on no other social media platform, no website, no nothing, and then that's what caused like a whole bunch of like issues, I guess, because no one knew what was happening. I didn't know what was happening at that point, so it was a little stressful. And they were like, "What's going on?" I'm just like, "This is what I'm planning on trying to do this summer," and they're like, "Okay, like you may want to like run this by us first, and because they're the governing body, and AO is the one that helps sanction the meets." So I was like, "True, like would be smart." Um, and then like AO was funny. They actually said that like that we're not sanctioning any of your meets, and I was just like, "What do you mean you're not going to sanction any of my meets?" I was just like, because I guess Athletics Canada or Athletics Ontario, they were going to try and do something similar to what I was trying to do, but they were like, "We're going to do it 2 years from now." I'm just like, "Cool, like that you can do that 2 years from now." Then like I'm doing it now.
You beat them to
Um,
it. Yeah.
I guess so. I mean, I don't think they they wouldn't have come up with this.
No.
Like like I'm very good at this
Yeah.
side of things, like my business. So like, um, but yeah, not to throw not to throw any shade, but that is probably 100% true.
Well, like it sounds like it was like a fan project. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
it
thinking
is.
of like a like just a totally unofficial thing, and then it just caught wind, and it was like go 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 go, and it turned into a real thing just because
Yeah,
you manifested this. Like this is what happened.
yeah.
Um,
Like looking back on it, didn't think this would end up being this way.
yeah, and like again, like you were like 21 at the time, and that like I think you know like you were, I guess before I cut you off, or you were alluding to like if you like emailed Athletics Canada before you started this, like before you posted and said, "Hey, this is my idea," they'd be like, "Oh, that's cute," and then like probably like shrug you off. But you just sort of like went for it, right?
Yeah, by
That's,
accident.
yeah.
But yeah.
Well, it's growing now. Like how
Oh yeah.
many followers do you guys have on Instagram? I guess if that's a metric you care
Four,
about.
oh yeah, 14.3K as of like today. So it's good.
Deadly. That's
Yeah.
deadly.
Yeah.
And I guess like so 21-year-old kid just said, "Okay, I love this sport. I'm an athlete doing it. I'm going to make something. I'm going to make the CTFL and we're going to make points and it's going to go places and it's going to promote people."
Hmm.
Not every 21-year-old does that. Only one that I know of has done
Yeah.
that. So you said that you had a master's degree. Could you explain like I guess go back into like what does your education look like? Did you go like right in the business? Like is that what it is that you're like, okay, like I went to school for this. I'm doing this in practice right now. Is that
Yeah.
or did it just happen?
So I went from like I was in public school my entire life and stuff. Went to University of Ottawa to study finance. Um, Before I went to university, I was thinking about going to engineering. Like civil engineering was my path. And then in grade 11, I got my butt kicked by physics. And I was like, in grade 12, I was like humming and hawing between like, do I do engineering? Like I still had okay grades. Like okay, I had good grades, but like I was like deciding between business engineering. And then I just kind of felt like what I was always been passionate about. Like I was trying to sell like ideas to FanDuel in like grade 10. Like that was my mark break for grade 10 was like learning how to patent something. And like that was legit what I did for all of my grade 10 March break. Could have been grade 9, but anyway. So I've always been super interested about business and learning about it. I also think that it what I can do with my business degree now and what I can do with CTFL at this point is make the world such a better place. Like CTFL is not going to be my end goal, and we can talk about that later. But I got into University of Ottawa for finance, did a couple of entrepreneur classes, then I did my master's in international business, and I really focused on strategy. So like I was a teacher's assistant for MBA classes. I think I'm probably like the youngest TA Queens has ever had for MBAs
Cool.
because I was 21 when I was a TA, which is I graduated my undergrad in 3 years as opposed to four. So like I accelerated my degree because of the pandemic. Went immediately, like literally finished undergrad a week later into my master's. So no breaks, and I just ran through that. Lived in the Netherlands for a bit.
You said you lived in the Netherlands, like just like
Yeah.
backpacked for a bit or what?
No, so it was for my master's degree.
Oh, okay.
So I did international business as my master's. So you actually had to like it wasn't just like an exchange. It was like you go away to a school, your grades all count. Like it's you know that's on my transcript basically.
Like an
So
exchange program.
yeah, it is kind of
Yeah.
like an exchange. It's like a little bit different, I guess, because it's like they do kind of. Yeah, I guess it's kind of. We can
Yeah.
just say it's a program.
But
But
it's
yeah,
cool.
so
You get to see like how like it works in other countries, other like
yeah,
cultures, I guess, right?
yeah. So it was pretty interesting, and I went to a really high level school. Like this school is known for pumping out like top business grads and stuff, especially in the focus of strategy, which is what I was really interested in. Um, so yeah, I ended up doing pretty well over there. Learned a lot about like standardization. So when you're creating a product and stuff, like there are certain standards that you have to comply with, and depending on the industry, like you have to adhere to those standards, and some are more strict than others. So I learned a lot about that and kind of applied that. Did one of my final papers is on like Formula One and standardization. So that kind of aside was kind of cool for me. And then learned from a really cool professor. And then that was already like going into year two for the CTFL. So I was doing a master's while this was all going on. So that was kind of like my academic history.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. So so you got the business. You were like absolutely no to engineering. Like once the
Yeah.
math started hitting, it's cool because like I find like from what I observed teaching is that a lot of kids really do experiment with like I guess growing up stuff but like grade 10, 11, and 12 like I always wanted to make like a fan film, and like of course like I am totally ill prepared to do a fan film, but you're at that age where it's like, you know, maybe you could do an adult thing, like maybe
Yeah.
you could actually do something, so you're like you're putting patents in and stuff like that, like which is like it's cute almost, but it's like you're you're exploring what you want to do eventually, right?
Yeah.
I'm just looking at students that I have, and I'm wondering what's the best way that I can, you know, nurture their aspirations.
Yeah, I think one, I don't think I was a great student to start off with. Like in elementary school and
Right.
like early middle school, I don't think I was getting like C's and D's. And then in high school, I was getting like pretty much straight A's, like undergrad, same thing, master's, same thing. But like in middle school, I think what shifted for me was like really learning study habits and trying to work on like what worked well for me. Because I think like I'm definitely a visual person. So I learned that at probably like grade 6 or 7. I'd say grade 7, I started to develop like good studying habits. I usually always studied 3 nights a week, three days before a test. So I guess like 3 nights per week. But 3 nights before a test was when I started studying for everything, unless it was math. Sometimes I'd study 4 nights because I need to like start practicing.
Yeah.
But if it was like history, geography, like English, like anything like that, I only ever studied 3 nights before an exam. Even in university, only 3 nights before an exam. Like I wouldn't push it to like a week like some other friends do. And that's just I found that worked for me. And that was a lot of like help. My mom helped me kind of figure that out in like grade 6 or 7, and then like I think I started to improve my grades at that point. And then you know you start feeling good because you're like you're doing better than you were previously. I'm very competitive, so I was beating my classmates and stuff. It was funny, like in grade 8, they had like this award. You got like an award for if you were like the top person of each subject. I think I had like the third highest GPA like across like all of my class,
Nice.
but I didn't win a single award. So I was just like super well rounded. Like I was like second, third in like every single class, and it kind of sucked because like when they present the awards, I was like that put another big chip on my shoulder because I was like I need to be like good
Oh
at something.
yeah.
And in track too, like I was never first. I was always like second or third, and until I was in grade 12 did I like get ribbons. Like I like get the first place ribbon.
Man, I was always Legion trials, third place every single year. Tried to compete for that, and
Mm.
for those who don't know, they always take top two in like the main events. And I was my buddy ran 159.9. I ran two flat. Like it was just rough. But you had that drive just to get better and better. And I guess you got some sort of like positive feedback because like you started seeing the fruit of your labor when you're in middle school. And like this is great because it's something I try to tell my kids. Like, you know, once you succeed once, then you're like, oh, that's the recipe. Like I want to get better at this. And then it like sort of you said straight A's in high school, and that's awesome. what what made you want to like make patents? Like, is it putting a mark for yourself, or is it just having like a name, something to your name, or like an accomplishment? Like, what guided you to patents? Because if I talk to like a random 10th grader right now, that is the absolute last thing on their mind.
Yeah, yeah, they probably don't know what patent is. But for me, I think internally and what drives me as a person is like to create as much value and do as much good as I possibly can. And for me, one of the best ways to do that, especially in my now given career path, is like generate like a lot of income. not just for like not for myself personally, but
Why not?
to then utilize it to open up other doors for other people and stuff like that. Um, so that's what CTFL really is. Like it is, maybe 20 years down the line, they're going to take a look back at like this interview specifically and be like, yeah, like, oh, he really shifted from away from CTFL and doing something else. And he's like, I don't know, building wells in Africa or, I mean,
There
like,
you go.
I don't know. But like those types of things. So Pat, for me, it's like accumulating wealth, I guess, is a big thing because I can utilize that. Um, I was thinking earlier today, actually, I was thinking like there are a lot of great people. There are fewer great people with power, and like that's kind of like one thing that I'd like to strive for is like not. I think the power kind of corrupts people, but like you need to kind of stay true to yourself. I'm very if anybody,
You'll be different.
yeah, like well, that's the thing. Like
Yeah.
it's like I like as a kid, that's one thing that annoyed my friends was like I used to get bullied. I used to get like horribly bullied, but it's because like I stood my ground and like I have my values and I will stand strong on those. So for me, it was like I think I'm kind of an exception for those kind of things, just because I've always been that way. Like no matter how hard it gets, like I will stay true to my values. Um, so yeah, for me, when I was creating those patents, it was the idea of like creating something to build wealth in order to invest into other resources and then hopefully accumulate that and then build new things with that to help others. So
That's cool.
yeah.
Like, I always think it's like, cause like you're literally just like explaining capitalism. Like you want to gain capital and then be able to do stuff with that capital. Cause like resources is power, right? And power is
Yeah.
usually money. Um, but like that is a sense like you need resources, you need money to accomplish goals and get things done. So I always think like capitalism gets a bad rap a lot of times, like because there's a million examples of terrible people with a lot of money, right? And then the people that have money that are doing good, right? Um, slandered in the news or like conspiracy theories around them, and like it just gets really icky, right? But I think like that, whether we like it or not, right? Like capitalism is the game, right? And we want to play it. And playing it well gives you resources. And someone like you who wants to, and I think someone like me, I think I said this in the last podcast I was in, is that my overall goal in life is to be a net positive in the world. Like there's going to be some negative things that arise from me. It's just going to happen. But overall, when they like, I die, I go wherever I go, and they're like tallying up, like, okay, like did this guy do good or did this guy do not? Like, right?
Yeah.
Um, that I want to like be a positive, right? And I think that's exactly what you're saying. Um, I think with the CTFL is a really great start because we have athletes that are completely underfunded, that are super talented. And I was talking to Jessica O'Connell the other week, and we were talking about like what things need to happen to become an Olympian, right? It's like talent, obviously, um, but then there's also where did you grow up? Did you have like a family that like nourished your talent? Do you have the interest? Do you have the resources? And then at the end of the day, do you have the luck? Right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it takes all that stuff. So you putting in your expertise to make this league, to sort of get people from point A to point B, grab that talent, be that resource for them, um, is noble. Like I like it. Because I don't know, maybe you can allude to this. Because I remember when I think I spent, I'm not as smart as you, definitely not. I took, I took 3 and 3 courses for all my university eligibility. So by the time I was done my 2 degrees, I was 25. And by the time I was done my eligibility, I was 24. And as soon as my eligibility ran out, like no one cared. I had no resources. I had no time to take off work or school, no exemptions, no massage therapy, nothing like that. And then it's kind of rough as any athlete when you're 24, you're like right there to hit your peak. And then everything just gets swept away because you didn't hit that threshold of like Athletics Canada funding.
Yeah.
Uh, is that like one way you're thinking of helping these athletes with CTFL?
Yeah, I think like we're already hopefully doing that. Like that is like the CTFL is built for athletes that are kind of like uh, around my age and then like a little higher than my level. But that's kind of like the gist, and like it's how do we support those guys. So like this year, what we're gonna try and do is have um, massage therapists and physiotherapists at nationals. So like for athletes that are traveling from out of country, like from out of province or out of city, for it's in Ottawa this year, um, we're gonna have like that on hand so they can then like have their best performances at nationals and at CTFL finals, and as we continue to grow and put more resources into the athletes, and they're going to have better resources available to them, should they will hopefully be able to kind of perform better, and it's going to be less about maybe like luck. Like for me, nationals last year I dislocated my hip, and like
Oof.
thank god, like the Lions had a massage therapist, and I was like literally walking to the call room and I dislocated and I raced on it because I popped back in, and then the day after I was like about to leave with my training partner Saj, who's like one of the best four hurdlers in the country. And as I was walking to my water bottle, it popped out again, and like I was literally like hobbling over to like the massage therapist. I'm just like, I need you like right now. Like
Help.
I'm in so much pain, and like if I didn't have that resource, like I would have had to have sat in the car for like 2.5 hours in like agonizing pain, to then hopefully make it to like somewhere I don't know. Like it was like, and so she helped me out, and like that could be prevented for everybody like who's in CTFL, and then like again, more money into the sport will help Athletics Canada get more funding, and like then they can support everybody. You know what I mean? Like so it just,
Yeah.
the more resources you get, the more resources you can put into it. I guess into everybody
It
else.
gives a longevity to the sport because a lot of times I had it, especially when I was training post collegiate. They would be like, friends, family would be like, "Aren't you done? Like, why are you going to the Olympics or are you getting old? Like, are you
Mm-hmm.
gonna give it up, hang up the spikes, or are you going to go to the Olympics?" What I like about CTFL is, again, I have a ton of friends in it, like Matthew Van Shepdale and Simone Brube, and a bunch of Manitoba athletes that are now able to compete in their prime.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think, like, even like, yes, the resources, but just the perception. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it almost felt to me before CTFL existed, when I was in that rut, that I like it was almost discouraging to continue after university because people didn't see a reason for it. And I think CTFL is giving that reason.
Yeah, I think like it, and Athletics Canada has given us credit for like saying that like okay, like 2028 for this Olympics, we're gonna have a deeper field, and we're probably gonna be producing more medals because of CTFL. And it's because athletes will be staying in the sport longer. Like normally for track and field, you only hit your like mid 20s to late 20s is when you hit your peak, but you're usually done like school for like if you're just doing an undergrad 22, 23. So a lot of athletes will quit afterwards because of like one like discouragement, as you're kind of talking about, lack of like no structure. Like there's no reason to really be competing. There's no
Right.
indoors for adults, and there's no outdoors. Like you're just competing for nationals basically. But the CTFL provides like a structure that's season. It's a season long thing, and you get to be part of a team again, which a lot of athletes really like. The fact that they're now part of a team, they can meet new people, they can have new experiences and stuff, and that's like a really big thing to a lot of them, and will keep them in the sport for longer till they hit their peak. So that's why like hopefully we'll have a better team in 2028, and it'll keep on progressing that way, get more kids involved, and that kind of thing. So you're completely right. Yeah, like CTFL is built for keeping people in the sports and giving them a reason to do it.
And do you have any like metrics for that? Like, how big have you grown the sport?
It's hard to kind of like
Yeah.
see how big we've grown it. I think like it's just like personal stories. If like we're being on
Yeah,
like
anecdotes.
there's so many athletes that have now credited CTFL with like the biggest one for me. I almost like cried when I got it. Was like this athlete Cedric Filippo took a another year to try and qualify to like maybe make it to an NCAA D1 school. He hit like a 2 second PB in the 800. It was like a 149, I think, um, at the CTFL finals. and like he sent me a big voice message. Like I have it screen recorded on my phone because it was like thank you for like everything you did. Like he's like this was like it was the last big meet of the year. So there were no other big meets you could go to for a high level competition, and he was like, "You are the reason that like I am now going to be able to go collect like a D1 scholarship." And he's just like, "Thank you for providing like this awesome opportunity." Like he races in Quebec, and there's maybe like one big race in Quebec. So he normally has to travel really far. Another big meet in Ottawa, which is like 3 hours away from him. And so he was like super happy that he was part of it. Um, there's just a lot of like there's stories like that, and there's kids that are come up to me and super excited that are like, oh, like when are you adding like this event to the CTFL? And like it's a big thing for them. Another thing that happened this summer was Catherine Kennedy lives out in Halifax. So we have about 10 athletes in Halifax, and she's a coach there. And her kids, their goal isn't to make, like they were saying, like she was saying to me this summer that like their goal isn't to make a national team, it's to make CTFL.
Oh,
So
cool.
like kids are really excited to try and do that, and it hopefully keeps them engaged. So I don't know how hard, it would be very difficult. Like we'll see over time. Like if it like a huge skyrocket, I'll probably attribute it to CTFL in terms of participation in the country, and we have like we can track those numbers. Like Athletics Canada and stuff tracks those numbers. So I think like we'll hopefully see a continued growth.
Those anecdotes, like those stories, like the FaceTime you had, like the video recording that was sent to you, the kids in Halifax, like that's what makes the 14-hour days worth it, hey?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like for sure. That's the only reason that I'm still doing it. Like I haven't taken a cent from CTFL so far. I've dumped like thousands, tens of thousands of dollars at this point into it. So, um, yeah, it's like I'm not rich or anything. I'm broke, but like that's basically it's been a passion project, and albeit like it's growing quite to like the revenue is going to be pretty big this year. So like I will take a salary finally after
There you
3 years
go.
of nothing. But so I'm no like saint, but you know that is why I've always kind of kept doing it, and like stories like that are amazing. Like that kind of impact is so hard to have, especially at like my age. So it's an honor to kind of keep on doing this and like providing those opportunities and like think I just constantly obsess about it like CTFL, but yeah, like it's so worth it.
Whether you stick with CTFL or you move on to building wells in Africa or any other endeavor you do, um, it takes like a work ethic, and I find that from what you're saying anyway is that your drive comes from being that net positive in the world, and like you're getting it right now. Looking into the future, like you were saying that Athletics Canada is going to have an increased pool of I guess potential national team athletes because of CTFL.
Mhm.
Where do you see CTFL going, let's say the next 2 to 5 years? Where do you think that's going to go?
I think big goals is like we need to be on mainstream media, and that will grow exponentially after that. Like if we get on mainstream like Sportsnet or whatever, um, then we have access to more funding, and so I think that in the next 2 years would be a big goal. 5 years from now, I think like starting to break ground on like a stadium to host like international events, to constantly host the CTFL finals in like one given location and stuff like that. Will be big goals to grow the league to about 400 athletes, maybe add two more teams, and honestly, it'll be in 5 years. Like we're only into our fourth year. Like this is our fourth year, so by 2020 or 2030, I guess. Um, like the fact like we've grown from a prize fund of like $7,000 to like a prize fund of like close to 50K. So like if we do that again, like I don't know how many times that is, but like it'd probably be at least like 6 times like that.
Yeah.
So that would be like $300,000. Then we're talking about like yeah, like our top athletes are like not having to work part time jobs. Like they combine like Athletics Canada funding plus CTFL, and they're making a good salary. Um, so and again, if we're on like Sportsnet or something or another, then 10 times it, and then or 20. Like it could be millions of dollars at that point. So I think in 5 years that would be the goal. Um, like we'll see if it happens. There's a few lucky breaks that we need to have happen,
Hmm.
but yeah, I think like those are the big kind of concrete goals and making track and field a very big part of the Canadian fabric, just like hockey is. Like we're
Yeah.
the fastest country on earth. Like we're the men's 4x1 100-meter champions. Like
Hell
for the next
yeah, we
4
are.
years, we should be able to call ourselves that. So it's like we have the talent. Now it's about like showcasing it and like making that part of our Canadian DNA.
That's awesome. In terms of like expansion, um, have you ever thought of like moving like the CTFL, like, because I know we're outdoor season. Have you ever thought about how to like expand it into indoor?
I don't want to encroach too much on like the university
Right.
system at this point. Like I think we might do like maybe a meet eventually, just like a one-off, and we'll do more like challenges. I think to keep everyone engaged with it, like 800-meter day or whatever, like 100-meter night kind of thing. Like I think that could be a potential. We're gonna do more with the youth, but because a lot of the CTFL athletes are currently in university,
Right.
like they're towards like third, fourth year, fifth year university students, like we don't want to affect their season and like that experience. So like for now, like we're providing that thing that has been missing, which is outdoors.
Yeah.
And then indoors, like if CTFL really grows to a point where like the other thing is like who knows, we might be like an international league in 5 years where it's like no longer like CTFL, it's like, you know, another like North American thing or like whatever it's going to be called. This could be like the G League affiliate, basically, of this big league. So you never know what's going to happen with that. I think like planning for like 2 years ahead is pretty easy, and then 5 years, like the fact that we're growing so quickly is kind of like a crapshoot in terms of like where are we going to be? There's ideas, but you never know.
All right. Well, like sometimes ideas become realities, just like this entire thing, right?
Yeah.
So one more question about the CTFL, then I want to get into like business talk in general because I'm trying to learn more about it because I hear so much stuff on the news. In terms of like where you're at now, do people come to you asking like to sponsor their stuff, or are you still in that grind where you're emailing people asking to get sponsorships, like the latter one?
Yeah, it is so hard to get sponsors. Like, and I'll give you we got 22 million views last year and reached close to 10 million people, and it's still difficult for us to get like a $5,000 sponsorship, which is crazy. Like the what we did for like New Balance last year, like if you look at, they do about cost per 1,000 impressions, so we'll just say like 1,000 views, which is even like harder to get.
Mm-hmm.
But we would do about $1.1 million in advertising for them last year.
Huh?
So like that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, that is.
And we're not getting paid anywhere close to that. So there's a lot of room for improvement, and I think like once we can get to mainstream levels, like it's just like catching that. Like I think of CTFL as you have to think of like a stairway. So like you're gonna like kind of climb up a stair, and then you're gonna plateau for a little bit in terms of like the finances, and then you're gonna climb up a step. It's just like depending on how big those steps are. Sometimes
It's like track and field in general. Like
yeah.
yeah.
So that is. Yeah, that's definitely the answer to that one.
Yeah. So like it's like I'm getting in like with this podcast I'm making, right? Like I talked to one of my buddies who has had a podcast for the last 2 years, and he's just getting into sponsorships, and he uses this platform called Podcorn, and it basically you apply for like sponsorships for like ad talks and stuff like that. Like, oh, this is sponsored by Lexi or whatever, right? And like he gets 250 views average, I guess that's what he gets, and he makes I don't know $30 every time he says it, right? So
Pretty good.
well, exactly. Like he says, like he's like, oh, I made like X amount of money in the last couple of months, and it's like he's just a dude, right? So like I don't know, maybe like the CTFL podcast, like you have an abundance of guests that you could like call on and then like build that up. But like an idea for you anyway.
I will probably steal that.
Okay, do it, please. Have me on. It'll be great. Now, like I love this, and I want to get it because like international business is what your master's degree is. The complete opposite of me, phys ed and education. What is your take on what's going on with the USA, Canada? Like, do you feel equipped to answer that? Like, because I know
Yeah, I
what
do.
tariffs are, but
Yeah.
like I don't understand the logic right now.
Um, so like in essence, basically what's happening, I'll take it from like the United States point of view because they're the ones that are like
Yeah.
starting it. I feel like a child saying like he started it, but you know, Trump is trying to increase domestic production, basically. So in doing that, like he's trying to disincentivize globalization, which is like international trade. So you have to think of like in terms of economics, like you can there's like you can produce stuff at different rates. So like if Canadians are really good at producing, I'm gonna be like super generic here, but like hockey sticks,
Hmm.
and like then we become like and the Americans can produce it, but for every like 50 they produce, we can produce 100. It makes more sense that they just don't produce hockey sticks at all, and they'll buy our hockey sticks because it's easier for us to produce. Um, so that's kind of like your competitive advantage. I forget the why am I blanking on the terminology, but that's your like your what you can trade. Then instead of them producing 50 hockey sticks, they're really good at producing like wheat. So like they're gonna produce like wheat, and it's gonna be like 100 instead of our 50. And so we'll just exchange our like say like they want 50 and we want 50 of theirs. So we're just gonna exchange those as opposed to them producing like say 50 hockey sticks and they're not going to get any wheat
Hmm.
if that kind of makes sense like
Yeah.
you have a certain amount of capacity for like building stuff
Yeah.
or
You're good at something, so you're going to do it. We're going to buy it from you.
yeah.
Um, we're good at something. We're going to make those. We're going to buy it from you,
And so
essentially.
that's like globalization
Yeah.
and like trading, and that's why we do it in essence basically like all countries are very good at different things like I think Germany is very good at producing cars like that. So um, what Trump is trying to do is stop globalizing like stop trading with other countries and trying to bring those like the automobile industry into the United States. So they're not producing like we produce like a certain number of like models and stuff for Ford.
Yeah. It's very
Um, and
convoluted,
yeah,
the
and
production
then
line.
we send it to them and stuff. So especially with things like that, it's very hard because there's so many little pieces that go with it. So like it's easier to have like no basically like the tariffs is like if we are shipping. So if the United States is ordering something, that company is paying like a 25% tariff right now.
So
So like
basically, a U.S. tax
yeah,
that they're
and
charging
then
it.
and the government takes that money in. So like it's like another form of tax
Yeah.
basically, and they're gonna be it's kind of like pushing forwards in this like scenario, or like the hockey stick producers in our first example, to come into the United States. So now they're gonna be producing their 50 hockey sticks. Meanwhile, we were much better at producing the hockey sticks, but Trump doesn't care. So he wants to then because that's going to create more jobs or whatever. We're going to get into more industries and stuff, and that's like generally like you have a low employment rate. Like there's all these different levers that are like reasons for it. But it's like say if they had like a really like high unemployment rate, they're going to try and bring in more industry um, and high level jobs and stuff. So they're trying to create more manufacturing jobs is what he's trying to do, and he's trying to stop outsourcing it,
Right.
and that's just like to help stimulate their economy. So he gives it the reason like he wants to end the fentanyl trade and stuff like that because apparently there's a lot of fentanyl coming
Yeah.
from Canada and immigration from Mexico into the United States. So he's trying to like force Canadians and Mexicans like our hands to like police it more. But in reality, it's just more of a power grab. Like there's no reason.
Yeah. It's
There's
an
no reason.
excuse, maybe, I guess would
Yeah,
be a word.
yeah, like, yeah. So like most of the stuff that comes out of Trump's mouth is like horseshit. Um, but yeah, so like that's kind of like in essence like why you do it. Um,
Want to de incentivize people buying it from somewhere else and
yeah,
incentivize them making it in the country.
correct.
The only thing I like, I get the logic. I do. The only thing I have, and like again, I'm trying to talk to a guy that has a master's in this besides instead of just me yapping, um, is that the timelines don't really add up. It's like it's easier said than done to be like, oh, we're going to make all our cars in the United States, so we're going to slap on that tariff. Meanwhile, it takes months to build like factories, it takes months to build this. So there's going to be that lag. And
Yeah.
until that is done, which, if it ever is, um,
Mm,
American people have inflation like almost immediately. Like it's like, oh, everything's more expensive. Then Canada has unemployment rates because now we can't export all our stuff that we have. And then
Hmm.
we can't ship our oil to Europe because someone shut down pipelines like a decade ago and like 5 years ago. So we're screwed on that front. Um, like, is that like if I was sitting down at a bar with my buddy and we're like complaining about this, is that a logical and like reasonable like complaint?
Yeah, the fact that like there's gonna be lag, and even like months, it's gonna be like year. Like
Yeah.
they're not moving manufacturing to this degree down in the states because of it. It's just like artificial inflation, basically. That wasn't necessary to kind of begin with. So, and then Canada's gonna hurt them. Like, if we're smart, we're gonna hurt them like where it would actually hurt, which is like their energy. Like we produce so much energy for like the northern states that like we cut off that. Like that's just like how are they going to produce anything? It's like
Yeah.
without any energy. So it's just how much we want to strain the relationship, I guess, and that's like the big question. Like, yeah, it is so
It's dodgy.
much that's going on that, like, I mean, I definitely can't explain all of the
Right.
like you can explain high level, but yeah, there's so many intricate little pieces that are going on that like even I wouldn't be able to understand with a master's degree in it. But yeah, that's like in essence like why this is happening, and we'll see how it kind of turns out because I mean the markets are down like the last couple of days, so
Yeah.
uh,
Well, time to buy, and then all of a sudden this is going to disappear, and then we can just
yeah,
get rich. Like
exactly.
my anecdotes, my little brain thinks like that might be a part of it. So, like, what is next? Like, you, I, in our previous conversations we had, you said that you're aspiring to, maybe go into teaching.
Yeah. So I'm starting teachers college next year. So sometime in the September basically is when I'll start, and then that's 2 years, and then it depends on where CTFL is at that point. If I'm going to actually become a full time teacher, or if it's
Hmm.
kind of substitute teaching in the meantime. But yeah, like we're just gonna kind of go with the flow. I get bored, as I said, pretty easily. So I have had some moments these like maybe not February, but like other months where I was not super busy, and um, we're gonna be able to kind of hire some more people next year to hopefully lessen the burden and stuff. But yeah, like, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what happens in 2025, 2026. So those are the next steps for me personally, and then it's just about kind of continuing to grow the league.
Awesome. I have to ask you this because like, you're going to get it. Why do you want to become a teacher specifically?
I think it's a good like lifestyle. My girlfriend is a teacher as well, so I'm seeing that lifestyle compared to my
Oh,
lifestyle.
summer's off. That's why. Okay, so
Yeah,
that's the number one thing you don't say in an interview, by the way.
yeah, got it.
Yeah. No, it's
But yeah,
good. Like I think you would make a great teacher, just out of your philosophy, right? Like you want to help people. Like you want to get people to where they're going. And I
yeah,
think if that's the reason you want to be a teacher, then you're going to be an awesome teacher.
thank you. Yeah,
Uh,
I'm hoping like it should allow me to do both, and that's like my big thing. And one thing that is hard for I think a lot of kids is like growing up. I think you can like you're made to believe that you can really do anything, but like in reality you actually can do anything. But when you kind of like go through like high school and university, like you're kind of like your ambition and your imagination is kind of tempered down, and that's one thing that like, I wish teachers in the older ages kind of like didn't allow that to happen, because like you really can do, like I created this at the age of 21 and it's doing really really well at this point, and like if I didn't have people that were semi in my corner and like my just complete stubbornness to like refuse to think that I'm gonna be like an average person kind of thing, like um I think that'd be awesome if teachers allowed that, or like I think it really is like enforced by teachers that like you're not gonna be like something special or anything like that. Like when you get older, when you're
yeah.
younger, everything's you're super special, but like as you get older, that kind of changes. But in reality, like you are, and if you put your mind to it, and you can really accomplish anything uh, that you want to, like as long as you're like smart and you can like do the work, like you can set yourself up for success. So one thing like with teaching is sometimes I feel like I'm giving up on that side of things, is like like teaching you can affect people, but it's really like in a box. Like I don't have like unlimited potential to affect like millions of people.
Yeah.
Um,
Like
in the end,
there's you'll find this out when you get into it. There is systematic restrictions. Like there is like when it comes to money, when it comes to resources, class sizes. Like there's a list that teachers grievances have, like the grievances teachers have that really do limit it. And you can go in there, and every teacher wants to change the world, and every teacher that I've met anyway wants to avoid what you were just talking about, like sort of dulling down people's expectations.
mhm.
I think in general, like we as teachers, I guess even I, like sometimes um, when I'm a little burnt out or whatever, you do have that. You almost it comes from a sense of protection. Like you want to make sure that the kid is gonna be stable
Yeah,
and has like a salary job or something like that, or
so he
can
can
live
support
it
himself. I
exactly
completely.
right.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
like a knock on teachers. I think it's just like I think it's just that is maybe it's just the way the world kind of is. Like you need people to do certain jobs, and you
Hmm.
need people. I mean, like it's inevitable.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just think like that's one thing. If we were to give like a message to your students, there's like you really can do anything if you put your mind to it and you work hard. Um, but yeah,
I like that. And I think that some people go into teaching because they had amazing teachers and they want to be like
hmm
them. And like that is me, essentially. Like my entire middle school cohort of teachers really shaped what my philosophy is. And sometimes, and I've talked to other teachers about this, that they felt like something was missing in their education, that and they want to be that for the next generation, right? So it's
hmm
like, oh, my teacher only took notes, and then I know some teachers that are like, that's not how I run my class, because I really wish I had a teacher like this, and
hmm
that's who I'm going to be with students. So I find with teaching, is as long as you come in with a core philosophy that you are going to make sure that those you want to help those kids, and understanding that you are going to fail a lot. Um,
yeah,
you have a staff of teachers, and you got to remember that. And like this is just tidbit advice from a guy that's been in it for 6 years now, is that you are not going to hit you're not going to hit any kids. What I'm saying
right.
is you're not going to make that impact, like that Hollywood moment where it's like the kid just gets it. You're not going to do that for every kid. But the kid that doesn't get along with you, that doesn't have a good relationship with you, that hates your class, likes the social studies teacher's class or likes the math class, and that teacher is going to pick them up or them up, and you're going to get one kid and you're going to be an influence and positive influence on them. So and then extrapolate that for 12 or 13 years when you're in school, there is going to be that teacher for everyone, and it may not be you, right?
hmm
So a lot about teaching is trying your best, knowing that it's going to hurt sometimes. And no, it's like an 800. It honestly is. You get going and like you're prepped and trained, and then anything can happen that last 200 meters, right? That's the best way I can think about it. Um, but before I let you go, where can people follow CTFL? What's the next big thing they can look forward to seeing? And any other takeaways before I let you go?
I think that the big take well, one, you can follow us on CTFL official, so it'll be like CTFL underscore official on like Instagram, TikTok. We even have a Facebook profile that we should be using a lot more often. YouTube is a really big one. Like if you like watching long form pieces of content and like storytelling, definitely go watch there. And then I think the next big thing we just had Boston, or we did training camp with 8 CTFL athletes that we brought down for Boston. They got to train at the New Balance track, which is like a world class track. You get to kind of see their personalities. So if you want a good like hit of CTFL, that's a good one. The CTFL draft is coming up, so that's when all the new athletes are drafted by like 4 like top Olympic ambassadors. So you got like Melissa Bishop, who's like, they're all basically 3-time
Melissa
Olympians.
Bishop.
Melissa Bishop, Brandon McBride, Aaron Brown, who's now will be a 4-time Olympian, or is a 4-time Olympian, and Lucia Stafford. So like stacked kind of field that are going to be kind of giving the rounds in. And I think that's the next big thing. We have a couple big things there with the high school athletes. We're launching the CTFL trials pretty soon, and we're going to be doing a fundraiser to help create more content. So stay tuned for all of that on like the social media. Follow us for sure. And yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Professional Development with me, Mr. Drover. I hope you found today's conversation insightful and inspiring. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your fellow educators. You can also connect with me on Instagram or via email to continue the conversation and share your thoughts. Well, until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep making a difference, both inside and outside the classroom. I'll see you in the next episode.